All right, welcome back. We're going to continue on with practicing our algebra skills as it relates to quadratics, or how we're going to use it in quadratics, by learning our distribution when it comes to a binomial times a binomial. So what do I mean by a binomial? A binomial is two things, so an A and a B term, so a front part and a back part, being multiplied with another bracket that has a front part and a back part to it. So two things times two things, right? Two parts, two terms times two terms. This is a binomial. This is a binomial. So what's going to happen is they're going to multiply with each other. And basically you can think of it like one house and another house, two people living in the first house. And what's going to happen is they're going to introduce themselves to their new neighbors who are in the second house. And what's going to happen is this first couple is going to go over and they're going to go say hello. And what's going to happen is the first person is going to meet up with the first person. And when the first meets with the first, I'll put F here for first, we have to multiply these two things together. So they're going to shake hands. Every time they shake hands or introduce themselves, that's multiplication that's taking place. So what we're going to have is the first term times the first term. So again, we go through signs, numbers, letters. In this case, it's an A times a C. A times C is just AC, right? A times C is AC. But at the same time, when A goes over to meet the people in the next house, then he's not going to ignore the other person that's also living in that house. So right after he meets C, he's going to meet D. So the outsides. So the outside of the first bracket, outside of the second bracket. So O for outside. So A times D. Plus times plus is plus. A times D is AD. All right, so now A has met everybody. A is done, right? We don't care about A anymore. He's met his neighbors. But B needs to go over. And B is going to go over and first meet the guy who opens the door. In this case, C again. So now we have the two insides, right? You see how the second in the first bracket and the first in the second bracket. So the two guys who are up against each other. So we'll call those inside. The two insides are going to meet up. And again, when they shake hands, multiply. And that means a positive times a positive is a positive. B times C is BC. But again, B is not going to ignore the other person living in that same house with C. So B is also going to introduce themselves to D. So now we have the last in the first bracket meeting up with the last in the second bracket. So L for last. So a positive times a positive is a positive, and a B times a D is a BD. So what we have now are these four products, right? These four combinations. So when we have two parts meeting up with two parts, or a binomial times a binomial, you should have four sections to your answer. And of course, you always look to see, can anything go with anybody else? So we're looking for the same combinations. So here we have AC, but we don't have any other ACs. Here we have AD, we have a BD, that's not quite the same. So we have nothing that goes with this guy. BC, nothing. BD, nothing. So all of these are separate from each other in this particular case. So you always have to look for that at the end to see if you can simplify. Now you notice that we spelled out something here using the first letters of these words, first, outside, inside, last. FOIL. This technique is usually summarized as FOIL. So I might say, oh, that's a FOIL question. And you know it's a FOIL question because, again, two parts meeting up with two parts, right? Separate people meeting up with separate people. So that's how you know it's a FOIL situation. All right, so let's practice again some more in these examples that are given to us here on this page. Okay, and again, you're looking at applying FOIL. So again, you can use the arcs that I was using with the pen in order to focus your eyes. Now again, remember that you think of what's the sign going to be, what's the number answer, and what are the letter combinations going to be. Signs, numbers, letters, in that order. It doesn't matter that we're doing FOIL while we're doing it. You still distribute and you still think of the answer in the same way you would have done otherwise. So x meeting a 3x, right? Two things meeting up with two things. This is a FOIL situation. So sign is positive. Number 1 times 3 is 3. X times x is x to the power of 1 plus 1, which is 2, right? You keep the base, you add the exponents. Now the x is also going to have to go and meet the second guy. So here's the outside parts. Positive, positive is positive. 1 times 2 is 2, and the x, the letter, comes along for the ride. So the x is done. Now the inside, right? The I for inside. Negative times positive is negative. 1 times 3 is 3, and the x comes along for the ride. And now last meeting up with last. So the last in the first bracket meeting up with the last in the second bracket. So a negative times a positive is a negative, and a 1 times a 2 is a 2. So now you look at this string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 terms, just like we expected, and you'll notice that there'll be some that are like terms. 3x squared doesn't have anybody to go with, right? There's no other x squareds listed here. So we have nobody to put him with. But 2 minus 3 of the same thing, in this case x's, 2 subtract 3 is negative 1x. And of course at the back, you just copy down the negative 2. So this is a trinomial answer. Try for 3. So we have a trinomial answer. All right, let's try the second one here. So again, this is a FOIL situation. Two terms meeting up with two terms, right? Person, 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 person. First meeting first. So again, signs. Positive. 1 meeting 1 is 1. I don't have to write positive, and I don't need to write a 1 because I know there's going to be a d here. And a d times a d is a d to the power of 2, right? If you don't see exponents, you know that they're 1s automatically. So d times d is keep the d, add the exponents, d squared. But like we said, he's not going to ignore the 2 sitting at the back there. So positive times positive is positive. 1 times 2 is 2. D comes along for the ride. Negative times positive is negative. 6 times 1 is 6. D comes along for the ride. Negative times positive. So now the outside, the last with the last, right? For elf, for last. Last in the first, last in the second. Negative times positive is negative. 6 times 2 is 12. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 parts. These two middle guys go together. So that means the d squared has nobody to go with. 2 minus 6 of the same thing. 2 subtract 6 is negative 4 of those things. And then minus 12 at the back. Okay, let's keep going. Now we have some higher numbers, some higher coefficients, but it's the same process. So what's going to happen here? Again, first times first, right? So sign is positive. 3 times 2, 6. A times a to the power of 2. Remember, 1 plus 1 is 2. The 3a is now going to go meet the negative 7b. Positive times negative is negative. 3 times 7 is 21. And now the letters, right? So 3 times 7 is 21. A times b is just ab. Right? They just sit up against each other like that. We tend to like them in alphabetical order. If you wrote BA, it's not wrong, but just realize that AB and BA are the same thing. Then these two inside guys, right? So we're up to the I part in FOIL. Inside, because this guy's finished. He's met everybody, and of course he doesn't have to meet who's already in his own house. So he just had to meet these two guys. Now the second guy in the first house has to meet those same two guys. So positive times positive is positive. 4 times 2 is 8. B times A, like I said, is BA. But again, we like to write it alphabetically, so AB. Now we have to do last with last. Positive times negative is negative. 4 times 7 is 28. B times B is B to the power of 2. So now we look at this string, A squared. I don't see any other A squareds. AB, BA, AB, AB, right? These guys go together. Negative 21 go up 8 would be negative still because the 21 is bigger than the 8 and he's negative, so he wins. Negative 21 up 8 is negative 13 of those things, ABs. And then the B squareds had nobody to go with, and we still have negative 28 of them. All right, so that's the order we like to write it in. And again, we prefer AB versus BA, just because, again, it's alphabetical. So now what you're going to see here is a binomial times itself. So when you see a square outside the bracket like this, what it means is that you have two of those things. So we have 2 x plus 3. So x plus 3 and then repeat x plus 3. That's what that means. So this is the way it's written out. We just get lazy and we're like, well, why do I got to write it out twice? I can just write it out once and say I got 2 of them, right, with the exponent. So these are the same thing. So I could have written out the question like this, or I could have written out the question like that. So you got to be comfortable with seeing it both ways. And because it's 2 things meeting up with 2 things, again, this is a FOIL situation, just like they all have been. So the first has to meet the first, x times x, right? Positive times positive is positive. 1 times 1 is 1. X times x squared. Now he's also going to meet the guy at the back. Positive times positive is positive. 1 times 3 is 3, and the x comes along for the ride. He's done. Now the 3 is going to go meet everybody. Positive times positive is positive. 3 times 1 is 3, and the x comes along. Now he meets the last guy. Positive times positive is positive. 3 times 3 is 9. So again, the x squared has nobody to go with, so we just copy them down. Here's some x's, here's some x's, group them together. You got 6 of them all together. And again, nobody for the 9 at the back to go with, so we just copy him down. So let's try that same process here on the 5th one, again, where you see a 2 outside the bracket, which means, again, you have 2 of those brackets. So if we have 2 of these brackets, what that means is I'm going to write out this bracket twice. So again, 2 things times 2 things. This is a FOIL situation, right? So don't forget, still got to use FOIL. Front times front, the first times the first, positive 4x squared. Then the outside guys, negative 10x's. Then the 2 inside guys, negative 10x's. And then negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Don't forget that plus sign. A negative times a negative is a positive. So again, signs, numbers, letters. So this gives us 4x squared, negative 20x's. So negative 10 minus 10 of the same thing is negative 20 of those things. Positive 25 at the back. So I want to show you that there was actually a faster way that we could have done these, because hopefully you've noticed that there's a pattern here. When you have the same bracket times itself, there's a pattern that happens in the expansion. So let me show you the pattern, and it's going to be up to you whether you want to use this pattern, because it does save you some time. So if you wanted to go here, so I'm going to write out the question. So or, so this is the quick way. That's the way I refer to it. This is the quick way of answering that same question. So we have x plus 3 with a 2 outside, right? So when you see that, we want to go straight to the final answer. So here's the pattern. What you do is, we know in our head that we're going to have to take the first guy and we're going to have to times them by the first guy, but they're going to be the same guy. So in our head, x times x, right? In our head, we know that we're going to get x times itself. In the back, notice again, it's going to be last times last, same thing times same thing. So the last times the last is going to be 3 times 3, which is going to be always positive, because the same times same is always plus, and 9, right? Now, how do we get this middle part? How we get the middle part is we actually take these 2 guys and we times them by each other. So x times 3 times 2. So x times 3 is 3x, and we double that answer, because I know I'm going to get a 3x here and I'm going to get another 3x here. 2 of the same combo. So x times 3, or 3 times x, is 3x. Double it, because I know I'm going to get 2 of them. The 2 middle guys are going to be the same. So that's what I mean by double it. So 3x plus 3x is 6x's. So you see that you go straight from here to your final answer without having to do the middle expansion step. Okay, let's try it again. Again, square the first guy with himself, square the last guy with himself, goes to the back. The middle comes from the 2 parts, the A and the B part, because they're going to be the same thing in both brackets, times them with each other, and double it. Don't forget to double it. So let's practice here with that same process. So 2x minus 5 all squared. So if you wanted to do the quick way, in your head, what you would do, again, is you would, in your head, you would go 2x times 2x. Okay, so this is in your head. I'm just writing it down so people can see what I'm doing, but you don't have to write this down because that defeats the whole purpose of it being quick. 2x times 2x is 4x squared, right? 4x squared. The middle, 2x times negative 5, right? This guy times the other guy gives me negative 10x's times 2, because I'm going to have 2 of those negative 10x's. That's negative 20x's. And then at the back, negative 5 times negative 5. The back guy times himself. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. So hopefully you see that we go straight to the final, right? Final expanded answer. Same answer as before, but we didn't have to write it out. We didn't have to expand. We didn't have to collect like terms. We just applied the little pattern. So it only works when you have the same bracket twice. If you don't have the same bracket twice, if it's two different brackets, this doesn't work anymore, right? So it's just a little trick that helps you save some steps in bigger questions, I find. Here, you can't use the quick way. These two brackets have nothing alike, right? They are very different. And not only that, we have an extra 5 in the front. So what I suggest you do, get into the habit. There's two ways of approaching this. So I'm going to show you your two options. You can deal with the 5 now or deal with the 5 later. I'm going to deal with the 5 later. I think that's a better approach anyway because it helps you in other types of questions. So when I deal with the 5 later, that means the 5 is just going to sit there. And I'm going to do bracket times bracket. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 3. So again, if you need to see this, then you with your eyes focus them by doing that. Because this is requiring FOIL. We're just going to multiply at the end by 5. But first we still need to FOIL these brackets. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 3. Sign is going to be negative. 2 times 3 is 6. X comes along for the ride. The 2 inside guys, positive 1x. And the last with the last, negative 3. Close bracket. So you can clean up now these two middle guys, your choice, right? Do a little bit of simplifying. Negative 6x plus x is negative 5x's. And now we have to distribute the 5. The 5 multiplies through to everybody to give us a total of 10x squared. Negative 25x is negative 50. Okay, so that was one way to approach it. And like I said, this way where you leave the number in the front till the end, that's a common way to deal with it. The other option is deal with the 5 first. So put the 5 into one bracket. So this is where students go wrong. They think that they have to multiply the 5 into both. No. The 5, I'll copy out the question here again. The 5 is just going to go into whoever's right up against them. Forget about the second bracket for now. So we're going to distribute first in this case. And then he's going to be sitting inside that first bracket. So this is going to become 10x's plus 5, right? 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5. This is the bracket that is now going to be FOILed with the last bracket. So now it's a FOIL situation. 2 things times 2 things. And the 5 is now incorporated into this first bracket. Everything is 5 times bigger. So now it's first times first, 10x squared. Last, right, the outside guys, negative 30x's, the 2 inside guys, positive 5x, and negative 15 at the back. Now we still have to clean up the 2 middle guys that are the same. Negative 30x plus 5x is negative 25x's. and then negative 15. Now you see eventually we get to the same place in the end. So some people like dealing with the 5 in the front first. Remember, you only apply them to the first bracket and then you FOIL. Other people like to leave the front guy until the last thing to do. FOIL first and then carry through the coefficient in the front. So this is what I mean by you have options. Now, in this question, do you see how the square is on the bracket, which means you have 2 of those, and you have a 6x in the front. So again, if you wanted to do everything step by step, which I definitely recommend for the majority of people, is you're going to write out the bracket twice, like the question is saying, 2x plus 1. And I would say option 1 here, where leave the 6x for later. Who cares about him? Just FOIL out those brackets. Pretend the 6x isn't even there. Just carry him down. Write a bracket right after him. And go through your FOIL to get your answer from 2x plus 1 times another 2x plus 1. That's 4x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 1. 4x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 1. Close your bracket. Now, some people will clean up right now or clean up later. I might as well clean up now. So what does that mean? The bracket reduces down to 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. And now I distribute because now I have to deal with that 6x sitting in the front. So again, signs, numbers, letters. Positive 24, x to the power of 1 plus 2 is 3. Next, positive times positive is positive. 6 times 4 is 24. X times x is x squared. Last, so now positive times positive is positive. 6 comes there, and x times no x's is x. Notice that all of these are now different from each other. They are not like terms. None of them can go with one another, so they stay separate. Now, keep in mind that some people like to do the quick way. So you see here how I told you the quick way, where you go straight to your answer? So this is the longest way it would take anybody to do their answer. But if you wanted to do something quick, I'm just going to recopy the question down here. Because I see in a square outside a bracket, I know that I can expand this bracket to get to this point in one step. So again, I'm going to leave the 6x for now. I don't care about him in the front. The quick way says 2x times 2x is 4x squared, right? First times himself. Then to get the middle part, the two guys times each other. So 2x times a 1 is a 2x, and then I have to times that answer by 2, 4x's. And 1 times 1 is 1. So you can see right away I got down to this step. The same line is right here after my first step. And then I distribute, and I get my 24x to the power 3 plus 24x squared plus 6x's at the back. Same final answer. Worth the same amount, right? So again, if you can do the quick way to expand a bracket times itself, go ahead and do it. So again, this is where I say that quick way comes in handy, because in the last question, you see here how we have a bracket repeated with a square on it. So you can write it all out, or you can do the quick way. This last thing is just distribution. There's nothing times itself back there. So if you wanted to do the longer way, the full way, you would copy out the 2. You would write x plus 2 and another x plus 2. And then I'll just copy out everything else. I'll deal with it on the next line. Okay, this is the longer way. I'm going to keep the 2 for now and do my FOIL first. X times x, x squared. X times 2, 2x. 2 times x, sign, positive, number, 2, letter x. 2 times 2, sign is positive, 2 times 2 is 4. Now at the same time, this guy is going to travel to meet everybody in the bracket after him. Sign, negative, 3 times 2 is 6, x times x is x squared. Repeat. Sign, negative times negative is positive, 3 times 4 is 12, x comes along for the ride. Back to the front again. You can distribute the 2 now or distribute him later. I'm going to clean up the 2 middle guys. So 2 bracket x squared positive 4x positive 4, and then minus 6x squared at the back plus 12x. Now the 2 has to go meet just everybody who's in the bracket. This 2 has nothing to do with the back part. This is like 2 separate parts. So I'm going to get 2x squared in the front plus 8x is plus 8 minus 6x squared plus 12x. So now I look through, everybody's free. There are no brackets anymore. I have 2x squared here and minus 6x squared there, so that together gives me negative 4x squared. 8x plus 12x is 20x's. So gone, 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 plus 8 is the last guy still left behind. Okay, so that was step by step, showing all my work the whole way through. For those people that are comfortable, this is what it would look like sort of as a quicker way. So again, I would copy down 2 bracket x plus 2 all squared minus 3x minus 2x minus 4. Okay, so that's the same question. I'm going to do the quick way on this bracket, which means the 2 just comes along. The quick way is going to be x times x, x squared. X times 2, 2x, double it, 4x. 2 times itself is 4. So you see, we got to this line right away. I'm also going to distribute this, might as well at the same time. Negative 6x squared, positive 12x's. Back to the front. Now the 2 is going to distribute. The 2 is going to go to the x squared to give me 2x squared. The 2 is going to go to the 4x to give me 8x's. The 2 is going to go to the 4 to give me 8. And again, you can show the arcs if you like. Copy down negative 6x squared plus 12x. And then again, collect your x squared. 8x and 12x is 20x. And then write down your constant. This took 3 lines. Right? This took 3 lines of work. This took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So whatever you're most comfortable with, and practice both so you can see which one you actually like better, and then just stick to that method and continue using that method. All right, so make sure you do the practice, because as you can see, the only way you're going to become quicker at this is by doing enough of them so it becomes automatic for you. All right, ask me if you have any questions. Until next time.